Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck. And of course, that means some smart talk radio is in your future. And certainly this segment is no exception. We're very excited and pleased to have with us best-selling author Elliot Tiber. Who is Elliot Tiber? Well, you know him. If you don't know the name, you certainly know his work. He's written and produced numerous award-winning plays, musical comedies, TV shows, and films. He's a professor of comedy writing and performance. He taught at NYU and Hunter College in Manhattan. He has written many novels, as we said earlier. He also wrote the best-selling work called Taking Woodstock, which, of course, is a motion picture directed by Ang Lee, and also a newer work called Palm Trees on the Hudson, a true story of the mob, Judy Garland, and interior decorating. And with that kind of introduction, Elliot, how are you, my friend?
Fine, thank you. Good to be there, Lawrence, Kansas. William Burroughs lived there for many years. He wrote Naked Lunch and other books, of course.
Yes, he did. Have you been here before, Elliot?
No, I haven't. Nobody took me there.
Okay, well, that might be. I'm not sure it's a bucket list, but it's a something list maybe for you.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk. You have an interesting background. You've had an interesting life, but let's take our Lewis at Large listeners, if you would, through the journey that took you to your first real professional experience here, and that is the production of Woodstock. What brought you to that point?
I was working in Manhattan and dumping my salary paycheck into my parents' little hotel called El Monaco in White Lake, where Woodstock was eventually. And for 10 years, we ran it into the ground without plumbing, without doorknobs or keys. The bank was going to take it over in June of '69. And then at that time, the papers were full of the story that Woodstock Festival was being thrown out of Wallkill, about 25 miles south of us. Of course, the headlines were they didn't want dirty lesbians on Main Street and hippies. Lesbians I know are not all dirty, so that was strange to me. Anyway, I called the producer, Mike Lang, and I said to him I was president of the Chamber of Commerce in Bethel, and I was, and that I had a music festival permit, which I did, which I made out for myself for 10 years, though I didn't have any music festivals. But I did have a permit. And so he said, "Where are you?" I told him, and he said, "How do I get to my helicopter?" Like I knew. He said, "Could you make a cross on the lawn with your white sheets at the motel?" I said, "My Jewish mother won't let me make a cross, but I'll knock her out and I'll do it anyway." So I made the cross with the linens. The mother was screeching and screaming. Helicopter arrived. Out came Mike Lang and his lawyer. "Could we see the permit?" I showed him the permit, and it was legitimate. "So could we see your land?" I had 15 acres. We walked through it. It was swamp and mosquitoes. So he says, "This won't do, and we're ready to leave." So I said, "Wait a minute. My milkman up the road, 4 miles, Max Yazga, has 80 acres of beautiful pasture land with nothing but cows there. He could chase the cows away. We're desperate." And Max was losing his place. The bank was going to take it over, too, that summer. So there was nothing in White Lake, I'm telling you. So we went to Max, and so the farm, they had a collective orgasm looking at the farm, and Max, desperate for money, so they peeled out, they had shopping bags full of cash. They peeled out $50,000 to Max, which later turned out to be $150,000. But anyway, and they got him to agree to use the farm, and they came back to my motel, and he said, "How many rooms you have?" I said, 72. And what are the rates? I said, $8 a night. That's what Howard Johnson got, but we didn't rent anybody. So he said, "We'll pay you $750 a night. A room will take the place for 3 full months, starting now."
Wow.
The whole place. And my mother says, "Wait a minute, I don't want any dirty hippies here." But he opened up a shopping bag and took out $50,000 in cash. Mother took it and put some in her bra, which she usually did, and ran in the basement, put the rest in a mattress, and she said, "I love you all. Nice children." So, well, they were Jewish too, so that was okay. Yeah. And then within an hour, over 18,000 people started to arrive on our place in trailer trucks, Volkswagen buses, and bicycles, motorcycles to fill up the staff. This was just the staff, filled up our place, and then overflow went onto the farm to start building these structures there. And they filled up all of our rooms immediately. And my little coffee shop became a den for smoking grass and dropping LS3, which was wonderful. And that's how the festival began. I didn't know what it was. All I was doing was renting rooms. I had no idea. And then came August, and a few days, the day before, Janis Joplin comes and stays in my place. So I knew her from the bars, the gay bars, where they played all the songs. And then The Who and Santana, all the Grateful Dead, they started all coming into my place. Most of them I didn't know. Jefferson Airplane, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Joe Cocker. Anyway, so they all started to check in, and then I knew something was up. But by then, the counters at my bar were full of little all-color pills they were giving out, all kind you could want, and grass. So I was having that, too. It was the first time in my life I was high. And I put some hash in my mother's kosher cookie dough there so she could get stoned, too.
There we go. There we go.
And that was the beginning for me of Woodstock.
Being the good Jewish boy that you were, you took care of Mom. I love it. That's
Oh yeah. They got high. It's in the movie Taking Woodstock. I think Lee won the Oscar for Brokeback Mountain, directed the movie Taking Woodstock in 2007. It was just amazing. And he had a scene with my mother and father stoned on the kosher cookies, which is hilarious.
Elliot, you kind of referenced this. Were you not really part of that hip culture in '69, or were you just a hardworking Jewish boy trying to make the hotel work? Were you aware in any real way? Were you a music freak at all?
Oh, yes, as a music freak, I knew what was going on, but I wasn't any hippie child myself. I was into S&M and the leather bars in New York. But they played all of that music, and we saw on TV the Flower Children. And then they all came from San Francisco. That next summer, they came to us.
Wow. Okay, so I've got a question for you. Again, the festival permit, the concert permit, or the gathering permit was something that you had just as a matter of form, just sort of laying around for a while, correct?
Yeah, what I had was by the pool of our place, I had 3 or 4 teenage musicians that were living there in the summer in bungalows play some songs. That was my music festival. And 3 or 4 people would come. So it was a town joke. And nobody, everybody made fun of me because I was trying to do something they didn't know about. Actually, the Tuesday before the festival, the town Nazis, as I call them, the right-wing Republican Nazis, the anti-Semitic people, formed a little barrier on the highway to stop this festival. And they had voted that the town doesn't want it. And there was no room for them because the highway was 1.5 million people on that highway, and they were 7 people with a little paper sign. So I said, you could protest all of you want, damn Nazis. And they just walked through them. And even the state police on motorcycles and on horseback were getting stoned. They became my friends. So all that was wonderful. The local town people hated me, but that was all right. They always did.
When you were talking to Michael Lang and some of the others, did they at the time, if you can remember, have any sense at all of how many people, 500,000 kids are going to show up to this? Did they have any feel for that?
No, they told me, I said, how many people? And they said 125,000. Then they raised it to 250. And then when the townspeople were trying to stop us, I got on NBC Radio. Mike Lang said, they're in room number 4 in my place. Go in there and tell everybody that the town is trying to stop us. So I never went on radio at the time. I went on radio and I introduced myself. And I said the local Nazis they didn't have a 3-minute delay then, 3-second delay like you do today. I said the local Nazis are trying to stop us, and if you people out there want 3 days of peace, love, and music, please come out now. And if you don't have tickets, I added, I don't know why, it's all free. Music has to be free. So, they had sold about 100,000 tickets, but that was the end of it because the kids came out, they tore down the fences, and they flooded the farm and flooded the motel and the grounds and the highways. And because of me, there were 150, over 1.5 million, people. And later, when my dad, after it was all over, and he was very sick, he died the year later, he said to me, he was crying, he said to me, listen, you and your big mouth that your mother hates all of these years. I had a big mouth. Look what you did. You changed the world. And he gave me a hug. And my mother was busy counting money, so she didn't care.
If you've just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis, here from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio, having a great chat with Elliot Tiber. He is a prolific author. He has produced award-winning plays, musical comedies, TV shows, etc. But we are talking specifically about two works, one called Taking Woodstock, which, of course, was a well-received, well-known, wonderful film done by Ang Lee, and another work he's done recently called Palm Trees on the Hudson, a true story of the mob, Judy Garland, and interior decorating. Trying to touch on both of these here, but let me touch again. Summer 1969, you were there, I was there. Richard Nixon is, what is he? He's 8 months into a presidency. We've just walked on the moon. We're a year out from Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy being assassinated. Woodstock was an interesting combination of time, place, and space, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, I remember we were on the lawn, and there they were landing on the moon. And then they interrupted everything with news about Woodstock, so I replaced the man in the moon, which was amazing to me. Nixon wasn't invited, by the way. He was not my favorite anything. He was no good. So we didn't invite Nixon,
no.
But plenty of others showed up. It just... it became a ground. They were handing out newspapers for all kind of movements, hippie newspapers for different kind of political movements. So that was there, and the anti-Vietnam war people were there in droves in their own newspapers and headlines. So it became a bit, besides peace, love, and music, a big political gathering too, which was fine with me. I was able to address all of that.
You had a unique perspective. First of all, it was an area in which you were well familiar. You had an inside look not only at the musicians but also those that were producing the show. Is there, Elliot, as you look back on it, is there an element or a thought or I'm not sure what, a part of Woodstock that has never really been communicated or the proper story told about it? Is there somewhere along the line, we all have an idea of sort of where we were and what the thing really meant, but is there anything maybe we should be thinking about in addition to what we already know?
Well, a big portion of the people were gay and lesbians. It just never mentioned. I mention all the time, but in all the reports over the years, nobody ever, I don't remember anybody discussing that. And there was a big contingent of, let's say 10%, which is the figure given, from 1.5 million. I don't know, is that 100,000, 200,000 gays and lesbians? And here suddenly I was not alone. I was not an outcast. I was surrounded by gays and lesbians also coming over and hugging and thanking me. And it was a place to be free, and they mingled with everybody else. I mean, it was a big sex orgy in that 3 days of mud and rain. And so what? It was wonderful. Nobody got hurt. Today's concerts, people are taking meth, cocaine, meth, whatever, the crystal meth, and there's dangerous, and there's fights and killings that there were recently at that New Man Festival, whatever it was called out west. And but we never had that. We had no problem. There was one death. A kid was sleeping in a sleeping bed in the mud, and a tractor ran over him by accident. That was the only death. And but I remember when I was there that parents were coming up from all over, stopping off. They heard our place was the headquarters for Woodstock, and asked me, they had pictures. Did you see my son or daughter? They disappeared. Where are they? And then I would give those parents some pills so they could calm down, and they disappeared into the mud too.
Oh, I love it. Again, we could talk Woodstock. Boy, 45 years ago. That is extraordinary to think about how long it's been. And
no one mentioned how good-looking I am. Nobody. Well, I still am.
I got the face for radio. You've got the face for television. We'll just put it that way. Right. We'll just put it that way. And again, 45 years ago, and most of the music still works really, really
you have
nicely.
A flight deck. I don't have a flight deck. You have a ship there?
I got a little bit of a ship. Not really a ship, but we just call it that. That's just what we call the studio here. But anyway, hey, let's we got to touch on. We could talk about Taking Woodstock for a long time, but let's talk about Palm Trees on the Hudson. That is is, by your own writing, a true story, but you have very delicately and carefully changed some of the names in the book to protect, apparently, as you said, I think you called it, what, nervous publishers? Is that right?
Yeah, my publishers. They have lawyers that keep changing the names of some of the famous people that I came in contact with. Because, like, there's a famous, it's no secret now, Mitchell Schweitzer, Supreme Court Justice. He's dead a long time. We were very friendly. He introduced me to the Jewish mob. I didn't know then he was involved with them, who owned a big nightclub in New York, Harvey. I won't say his last name. I think he's still alive. Anyway, and to decorate it. So I decorated this nightclub. And then he had his birthday, his 50th birthday, on the Staten Island ferry. And I decorated the ferry with 100 palm trees. And then I don't know how many people showed up on that boat, 600-700 people, maybe 1,000. And the boat was ready to sing. But the big thing, a limo arrives with Judy Garland, who, when I was 10, my mother, the first movie she ever took me to was Wizard of Oz. So I fell in love with Judy over the years. I had her pictures and her records all over my room. There was Judy Garland. I gave her a hug. I told her how I know her, and I saw her in Carnegie Hall and gave her roses there and all of that. And we went into a room together, me and Judy Garland in room 102. That was just amazing to me. My mother was peeking through the window. I should have sex with her because she was a guy. A guy's a Gentile. So never mind Jewish boys, but the non-Jewish women, that was not good. And so that was my connection to Judy Garland and the mob. And we were sailing around the Staten Island, around the ferry, on the Staten Island ferry, and on the Hudson River. And everybody there was all full of the mafia people I didn't know, and they all got drunk, of course. They didn't get stoned, just drunk. And they decided it would be nice as we circled the Statue of Liberty to throw my rented palm trees on my credit card into the water. That's one of the palm trees in the Hudson. The book should really be called Before Woodstock, because it was all the things before Woodstock was even on the horizon. And it was an incredible event for me and those palm trees in the Hudson. I went for $10,000 to get the $10,000 from Harvey to pay for it. I rented on my credit card, and he sent a henchman to my door at 3 a.m. Said, "Listen, Elliot, I like you. You're friendly. You're a nice guy. Sign this piece of paper, receipt." I said, "Receipt for what? For $10,000?" I said, "There's nothing written on the paper. Where's the $10,000?" He said, "Trust me, sign the paper." So I did. I was scared to death. And I called the judge to help me and said, "Listen, you don't know who you're dealing with. The $10,000 is the easy way out." Well, that's that.
How did Elliot Tiber, how do you find your way into these situations? Is that fate?
I don't know what fate is. I know that I've always been outgoing. Since I was 13, I graduated Yeshiva of Flatbush, which is in the book. It's a parochial school. And I learned there is no God. So I got up on stage, I was a valedictorian, and I announced in Hebrew, fluent Hebrew to the audience, including my parents, 2,500 people in the audience, and in Hebrew, then in English, "There is no God." And Rabbi Weiss came running out to pulled me off the stage. I said, "Pinky," his name was Pinky, "Pinky, what are you getting so upset about? Why don't you tell them what you did to me in the back room?" I was 11 or 12 when he molested me in the back room of the yeshiva there. So why don't you tell me that? And I went up to the Holy Ark, which you're not allowed to touch. It holds the Torah. And I opened it. You're not allowed to touch it unless you're a rabbi. I opened it. I said, "There's nothing in there, people. It's 2 scrolls of paper." And everybody just ran out of the auditorium, and I got hit by my mother. So,
but you were telling the truth.
Yes. I saw it, and not everybody. There's people in the yeshiva. They were paying good money for their kids to learn about God and Noah's Ark. And I even said about Noah's Ark, I said, he's built this big boat in the desert. How is it going to fit all 2 of everything, dinosaurs and all of this onto that boat? And where did the water come from? You believe this stuff? People still believe in Noah. Amazing to me.
Hey, Elliot, we want to talk about the books, but I want to talk to you about, I want to talk about gay in America, and I want to talk about what you see. You're insulated a little bit. You're in the Northeast, primarily in New York City.
No, I'm in Miami now.
You're in. Okay.
Yeah, all the money I got from the Woodstock movie, $2 million. I'm not good at keeping records. I invested in stocks. My broker at Merrill Lynch said that. And then the crash in 2008, I lost it all. All I had left was enough to move. My accountant says, move to Miami. It's half the price of New York. I couldn't afford New York anymore. So for 3 years now, I'm in this 110-degree heat. Well, my apartment's air conditioned with my little Yorkie named Woody Woodstock. And I'm in Miami. I'm out of the element. I'm trying to get back to New York. Maybe one of your listeners at Lawrence, who has money, would take a nice condo for me in Manhattan and save my life. Please call this show and tell them where you could reach me.
So you were part of the Jewish migration from New York to Florida.
Miami. It's beautiful here. They're very nice people to me and all of that. They don't understand me. I talk wherever I go.
Right.
I try and convert everybody to my brand of living, which is useless because they just all think I'm a mad person. But they buy my book here. It's amazing. They have libraries and bookstores here, too.
Well, you've been an observer of the culture. You've been involved in the culture. In the last 10 years, let's just narrow it down to 10. Being gay in America, how has that changed?
Okay, that's in my book called After Woodstock about all of that. In the 80 and 81 and 82 was a gay they called it a gay cancer. Friends had spots on their bodies. Nobody knew what it was. We were terrified. My partner, Andre, a Belgian director, we were living in New York, and we were gay and going to the gay bars and all that. Then suddenly there was this gay cancer, and we attended 40 funerals. So then I stopped going. 40 friends. They had spots on them within months. Most of them died, and nobody knew about what AIDS was. And then they named it HIV. So all the bars closed. Life stopped. We were terrified of shaking anybody's hand. We were together, and we didn't do anything dangerous sexually, so we were all right, fortunately. But people around us were dropping like flies, and it was a horrible, horrible time. And going through surviving that period in New York was just awful for us, just awful. But we pulled through, and a lot of people did. And I used humor, which I always do, in order to survive. And I wrote a book called Woodstock Delirium with hundreds of pages of photographs of me and Andre and our friends, all of that, which was never published. I published it myself. And somebody gave a copy of that to the Square One publishers who published my book. And they called me, and the publishers, my mother's name was Sonia. Publisher's mother's name was Sonia. And he grew up a fat boy in a donut store in Long Island, and I grew up a fat boy in my mother's houseware store. So there was that connection. He called me and said, I want to publish the book, not this book. I want you to write a new book. And that's how I wrote Taking Woodstock. So growing up fat and gay, and Andre liked big, heavy guys, so I was all right with him. When I lost, I became a vegetarian, and I lost 80 or 100 pounds, and I was slender, and we broke off sexually because he didn't find that attractive anymore. Amazing. The Belgians like big people. I don't know why. I guess all the French fries. And so that's what the Palm Tree book is should be called Before Woodstock. It's everything that led up to the festival, which then changed my life with Ang Lee. Once Taking Woodstock came out, that movie, it just put me on the world map. I mean, I had not been invisible before, but this really did it. The movie, and the book is in 14 languages, and the movie is in hundreds of countries worldwide. None of the Arab countries bought my book or published them. I went to a book show, and I saw the Arab booth. I went in. I told the guy. He looked at me, and at the cover it says, "The gay man who saved Woodstock." He says, "Gay, Jewish, Woodstock? You're in the wrong booth. Get out." So I couldn't sell it to the Arab countries, and I'm not visiting Iraq at all.
You think the movie captured, must have, to your satisfaction, the elements and the essence of the book?
Oh, yes, he did a brilliant job. He got the humor, and he got all the sensitivity. He got Liev Schreiber, that wonderful actor, to play a cross-dressing drag queen who survived the Vietnam War. And Liev was wonderful, and it's a close-up of him in the movie showing he's walking half naked, showing his underwear and his private parts to me in the movie, which was a riot that even showed it. A lot was left out because they didn't want an X-rated movie, so they filmed me in leather and handcuffs, all that stuff that I used to do, but that was left out of the movie. It's on the DVD Bluetooth, whatever they call it, a little sidebar or something, and people could see that interview there, which was wonderful. But Ang Lee did an incredible job. We got along beautifully. He was a brilliant man. I got the movie deal, no agent, nobody else, with my big mouth. I was in San Francisco with the hardcover of Taking Woodstock in 2007, and on a San Francisco TV show, and there was Ang Lee in the other room. I recognized who he was, and I said, may I give you a hug, and blah, blah, and I told her how I was a big fan of his, and so on. And then I had my book, of course, with me. I said, he said, what do you do? I said, have you heard of Woodstock? He said, oh, yes, the Woodstock Festival, blah, blah, I wish I could have gone, I loved it, and blah, blah, all of that stuff. And I said, I'm the man who made the festival happen. He said, what? And I knew I had 3 minutes to make a pitch, because that's all you get to pitch a movie deal. Right. That much I knew. And me to talk in 3 minutes, I told you all the stuff I told you, I told him in 3 minutes. And his whole assistants, all of them were listening. And I gave him the book. I said, listen, I'm only letting you have the book if you promise to do the movie and open it in 1 year for the 40th anniversary of Woodstock. That's the terms and conditions. I gave him terms. He took the book. 2 months later, I get a call from Focus Features Hollywood to come. They had rented an airplane hangar in Long Island to come there for a meeting with everybody from Focus Features and Ang Lee and James Seamus, who did the screenplay, and come in there, and there are photographs of me, my family, my grandparents, my Brooklyn home, everything about my life, went to college, all the yeshiva flat, all there on the walls lining it. And I came into a thunderous applause. I didn't expect any of this. And my publisher was with me. His mouth dropped open. And they said, we're going to do your movie, and we're going to have it for next year. You can't film a film like this in 1 year. It takes 4. I knew that. In 1 year, we dropped everything else, and we're doing this, and they did it. And it just was amazing.
Wow. Well, it is an extraordinary, two extraordinary stories, 3 of them actually, but we're talking specifically today about Taking Woodstock, again, put out a few years ago by Elliot Tiber, and made, of course, into that incredible movie. And also, as well as Palm Trees on the Hudson. Hey, Elliot, how can people...
They can get the books on Amazon.com.
Okay.
It's the best place to get them. Unfortunately, they're discounted, so I only make 4 cents a copy. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, that's not enough to get you out of Miami, is it?
No, it's not. Somebody in Lawrence, Kansas must be listening, and please, he should call you and move me to New York.
Okay.
And God will bless you. God will bless you.
Understand. I'll tell you what, if you do that, if you send Elliot, we'll have a Send Elliot day here, and if you do that, Elliot will take you on a personal tour and take you up to the old Yasgur's farm area and give you a tour. How about that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'll give you all of Lawrence, Kansas can come to Yasgur's farm.
Hey, Elliot, also, do you have a website people can check out some of your other stuff?
Yeah, it's takingwoodstock.com or elliotttiber.com, and my books are on Amazon, and the film's on Amazon, too. And if you're in Miami Beach, here I am.
Wow. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for your contributions. Thanks for not holding on to that gathering permit in upstate New York, or actually that lower state New York, and thanks for everything that you've done, and best of luck. And again, we're going to try to get you back to New York.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you and your show. Thank you.
You bet. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.